I designed a Z-clip with a 7-degree bevel on it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it's got a bevel on it. And then I created a horseshoe shim, right? It slips up behind it and adjusts it in and out off the wall as necessary, removing the process of stacking all these shims and getting it wrong a lot of the time and pulling stuff out at different size shims to get it to exactly where you need it.
Welcome to Verify Infield, the millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Welcome back to Verify Infield, everybody. Today I have special guest Dave Doran, who is president at 7 Degree Solutions, and which is the company behind the innovative Z-clip system, and it's designed to reduce install time. So, Dave, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to hear a lot about your story and how you came to develop this product.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To get started, would you mind giving us a little bit about just your background in the industry and what was kind of the impetus that came to developing 7 Degrees?
Sure. Yeah. So I graduated high school and went into the Army for a couple of years. And when it was time for me to get out, my dad was a project manager for a while, but also one of the main foremen over at a company called Design Workshops here in the Bay Area. They do high-end millwork installations in a great shop for, high-end tenant improvement work and really high-end residential out here. And he said, well, you come give it a shot. And I did in 2000. I started my apprenticeship with Design Workshops. I spent 10 years over there. I went through the union apprenticeship. The day I turned out, I started running work and spent years of my life doing Z-clips, prepping walls and ceilings, serving work panels, and all the layout that goes for Verify Infield stuff. I looked at the title of your podcast because I did a lot of it. And been about 10 years over there with Design Workshops, and then moved into the general contracting side for a company called Principal Builders. And I still work for them today. I'm one of their main superintendents. We're actually in a job site office right now. We're running the new headquarters for Open AI over here in San Francisco. That was about 15 years ago. And my dad was in the trades. I did it for the last 25 years, and my son is serving his apprenticeship at Design Workshops now too. And is also spending years of his life shimming walls for panels and millwork panels and ceilings. I just remember thinking to myself, man, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And about 6 years ago, I came up with a prototype. And then I shelved it. And then about every 6 months, I'd be like, oh, God, there's got to be something. I go to the hardware store and start getting parts and pieces and play with them for a week or whatever and give up on it. And then last February, I was driving home from work and I just came up with the idea. So I went home and I drew it on Bluebeam and I started playing with the wedge and the extruded piece of aluminum that had the matching bevel and moving it in and out and up and down. I was like, wow, this works. So let me go out to the garage, and I machined a bunch of parts on it, dug for the shims and glued on a wedge on the back of an existing Z-clip and set up a camera and had my wife film me. And I did it. I proved it to myself, like the old fashioned way, stacking shims versus this new method of quick adjustability with the 7-degree wedge. I proved it to myself. And from there, I went to a patent attorney, and that was a quick process. I mean, I think it was approved over like 4 months, I believe. And since then, it's been baby steps, Jacob. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just taking baby steps here and there and trying to get the word out to all of my friends in the industry around here. And recently got on LinkedIn, got in contact with you and many other folks around the country, and a lot of interest so far. And a lot of shops around here are going to it. And Design Workshops themselves have adjusted their standard details to make this a standard for their installers, their installer limit. So that's a little bit.
That's awesome. So for our listeners who maybe have never installed before, we have mostly people that I think are familiar with this process, but there's a lot of people that like drafters and engineers who've drawn this stuff, but maybe have never installed it, or even just people that are familiar with Z-clips. I think most people in this industry understand how Z-clips work, and there's a handful of brands out there that make different versions, and they're all effectively working the same way, right? Which is that you have an aluminum or metal extrusion that is attached to the wall and another one that's flipped 180 degrees attached to the panel, and you hook it on, right? And so you can have a continuous extrusion on the wall, which is very easy. All of them work the same way. You line them up to get them level,
Yep.
right? And then you have clips that hook on your panels, and it seems pretty simple. It's a smaller, thinner metal version of a French cleat in many ways,
That's
right?
right.
But can you explain, talking about what the industry standard products on the marketplace are today, more in depth, what that install process looks like? Because on paper, you got a
Looks
flat wall
simple. Yeah.
and a flat
Yeah.
panel, right? But what are the obstacles that installers face when you actually get in the field that make it so difficult?
Right. So, detailers will typically provide in their drawings this little space that's behind the Z clip called shim space. And it says, typically an architectural drawing will just say shim as necessary. And that means build it
Right.
up so that the finished product is true. It's plumb, it's level, it's square, it's straight. But what you're hanging your finished product on is an imperfect wall or an imperfect ceiling. It's typically, framed out of rough framing and has a layer of drywall typically. And, most new walls can have easily up to 1/4 inch bellies in them or valleys up and down. So the key or the trick to having your finished product, your finished panels come out perfect is taking the time to shim all of your Z clips out to the exact finish line that they need to be so that it all goes together flawlessly in the end. Right. And that's a painstaking process. Right. When I started, we didn't have these nice lasers, right? We used chalk lines where we would establish the finish line or the finished panel on the ground, right? And you would work backwards from there, always building from the finish line backwards, right? So you have your finished panel, and then you have a Z clip that mounts to the back of the finished panel. And then you have the Z rail that mounts to the wall, right? And this has to move in and out off the wall to get it exactly smooth, flush, plumb, level, true, square, straight. And then the Z clip and the panel hooks on it.
Right.
So what guys have been doing for years is either spray gluing 2.5-inch pads, either out of plastic laminates or thicker material like 32nds, 16ths, 1/8, 1/4, and all the different combinations in between on every stud and at every elevation where your Z clip is installed. And they either spray glue it or they would pre-drill the Z clip, right, with a hole, screw it to the wall, and then back it out and take a flat shim, like an 1/8 inch or a 16th or a 32nd or a 1/4 or any one of those combinations to build it out to exactly where it needs to be. A typical elevator lobby in a high rise, if you're shimming all the walls for that, I mean, it's a week's worth of work for a guy to do all of that, to get it correct, right? Just to hang the panels,
Right.
all the work that goes into that. With my system, instead of, the typical Z clip is extruded with a flat back on it and it accepts a flat shim. I designed a Z clip with a 7-degree bevel on it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it's got a bevel on it. And then I created a horseshoe shim, right? It slips up behind it and adjusts it in and out off the wall as necessary, removing the process of stacking all these shims and getting it wrong a lot of the time and pulling stuff out at different size shims to get it to exactly where you need it. This process, quick and simple. You adjust it. You got an offset block that hangs on the Z clip with the dimension of the panel that you're using. Here's a 3/4 inch line. And you just bring that line out to exactly where you want it, right? With your shim. And you can split 30 seconds now in half. Like you can play with 64s or 128s if you wanted, but it just completely simplified the whole process, right? So I have 2 shim. There's 4 parts to our Z clip. It's the wall rail or the ceiling rail if you wanted. It's the panel clip, which is the same as everybody else's panel clip that's out on the market. And then I have a 4-inch shim that gets you anywhere from 0 to a 1/4 inch projection off the wall. And it also has I did a 0 mark on it that gets you back to flat. So you would always install it to the bottom of the clip to get to flat, and then you adjust in and out as necessary to bring it to where you want. Now, if a 1/4 inch isn't enough, I would say a quarter. This shim is going to straighten 85% of the walls and ceilings out there, I would say. But if that's not enough, you have the larger shim, and it also has a 0 mark at the same point, and that takes it from 1/4 to a 1/2 inch projection. It doesn't take it from 0 to a 1/2. It only takes it from 1/4. If you place it down at 0, the panel actually would bind on the shim. I don't know how well I did explaining that, but
No, that was great.
mind.
I'll attempt to recap for those who are listening and not watching the video. So in short, the current, established system, you have multiple long extrusions that you're mounting to the wall, and all the work really goes into getting that flat, and then hanging the panels becomes easy. Everything is plumb and flat. And so what you're trying to do is you have generally a wall where drywall is applied to screws, and it's wavy, and it can be out of plumb both vertically and definitely horizontally. And your goal is to get all of those extrusions perfectly straight horizontally in plane, as well as in plane with each other vertically. And once you do that, hanging the panels, the face of the panels will all be true. And the current standard system is basically whatever you need to do to project and get that extrusion flat on each stud, each mounting point, each place where you put a screw through that into the wall, you're shimming it out. And right now you're stacking flat shims because the Z-clip is flat. And what you've created is essentially an infinitely variable shim system, right?
Yep.
And the thing that pops into my head, and this is probably even more obscure, is like a continuously variable transmission versus a geared transmission. You have fixed gear ratios versus a continuously variable system. And what's funny is this is also very much how people, a lot of times when you're installing door frames, you pair two shims with each other to get that same function you've created with the Z-clip, right? You put two slope shims back to back, and it gives you that infinite variability.
That's right.
Effectively, that's what you've created with the Z-clip system, right?
Correct. Yeah. The PAT language says it a Z-clip. That's the only difference is it has an angled base for depth alignment, and it just
right.
In my mind, it takes out 66% of the labor every time, at least, and it's been proven out here in the Bay Area over and over again.
Awesome. Yeah. So now you've established, obviously you've got the patent, you've created this solution. It sounds like you're still very much in startup phase of, building a company and around this and launching this. So, is this a product that people can buy today?
It is. Yeah. We're 8 weeks old. We launched the website 8 weeks ago. We have a warehouse in Northern California, and we can ship anywhere across the country right now.
Is it true? So you said your system has 4 components. So essentially you have 4 SKUs that you buy. You've got the panel clip, the extrusion for the wall, and then the 2 different sizes of shims.
That's correct.
That's
yeah. Yep. We can, if somebody wanted a custom order, like if they wanted us to punch holes at 8 inches on center, so they hit studs every 16 or 24, or they had a specific layout they wanted, we can do that. But the wall rails are
what lengths?
12 feet long, where we can chop them to 6 feet long if they wanted. And then the panel clips, they come 2.5 inches long, but we also sell them at 12 foot or 6 foot long as well. In case you had like a shop die wall that was, milled in a shop and it's perfect, and you just wanted to hang a flat panel on it real quick, you can still use our Z-clip for that also.
Right. Okay. And some of the, more minute details that maybe people might not realize. So it looks like your clip also has a slope on the clip itself where they engage with each other.
Is that right? Yeah.
And they actually engage with each other. So I know there are some Z-clips that are just like a bent aluminum. Yeah. Flat. And there is some give, some slop there, right? These actually engage fully with each other.
That's correct. Yeah. And I found that it's easier to clip it this way. That's why I went with this design. That doesn't mean like down the road, if folks wanted a specific extrusion for, say, I like my ceiling panels to be flat and not have that bevel. we're
Right.
open to manufacturing new stuff in the future. This is just us getting started 8 weeks ago,
Yeah.
you know. And the other thing
Yeah.
I'd like to point out, Jacob, is when you have your shims like this, right? With flat shim, sometimes they'll bend out and get in the way of the panel clip, and the installers fight it. I don't know if you can see this, but with the bevel,
Yeah.
the shim is never in the way of the clip, ever, right? It's always stepped back.
Right.
So you're never fighting any of the flat shims that could be bowed out or in the way of the panel. Another benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And there is positive alignment as far as once that fully engages, it's actually sitting on it looks like a horizontal point, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Of
Yep.
the clips. Yeah.
Yep.
I know some of this is stuff that the installers out there are going to have those questions, but a lot of others that maybe aren't familiar aren't going to realize those minor differences between the
Yeah.
products. So you talked about also horizontal solutions like ceiling panels. So this can be used for ceiling panels as
It
well.
can, and I have. Yep. The trick with a ceiling panel and any ceiling system you do is you get your engagement, but you always want to have it like a flat tab at the end of your panel or on the sides of your panel that's exposed that you can actually stack a flat shim behind and screw it directly into the structure above so that it doesn't move or slide ever or fall.
Yep. So the clips are holding it from gravity,
Right.
and then you've got something positively engaging it from sliding sideways off the
Yeah,
clips.
exactly.
Well, I think what's impressive to me is just ultimately how simple this solution is, and really, it's a lot of times when you have something new and innovative like this, there's a learning curve and kind of hesitance of like, well, we got to change how we do things, and really, you don't have to change
No,
anything that much. If you're already using Z clips, it's essentially plug and play. It just makes the installation process easier, right?
that's right. Yeah. And there's nothing like having it in your hands. So we will send samples out to anybody who wants it. The group of guys that I grew up were very picky and they have their systems, right? Like the old fellas, like change is hard,
Yeah.
but this is not a hard
Yep.
change. This is real simple.
Yep.
Once you get your hands on one, I don't think anybody's ever going back to the old way, you know?
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about, what do you see? Obviously, now you guys are building this, raising awareness, you're getting it in people's hands. You have clients already using this product, you're using this product. At this point, you're an inventor, you've created a product from nothing, right? Do you see in the future there's other things like this that now you're motivated? Okay, are there other innovations or other products that you see launching in the future? Or is it really just, hey, let's get this out in the hands of people to solve this
Yeah.
problem?
I'm constantly day in, day out trying to improve processes. Like right now I'm running the a very, very large project. And there's always things that can be done better. I'm constantly learning, constantly doing things wrong, and then trying to figure out how can we improve. And I'm definitely not shutting that side down for 7 degrees. I'm actually excited about any new process or thing that I can come up with the future and use 7 degrees to help bring that to the industry. These systems are also used on exterior panels, of large buildings, just a larger format. And I think the design intent of the Infinity moving it in and out will translate well into exterior systems as well.
Yeah. I didn't ask this, but how did you land on 7 degrees specifically?
So I was just playing with this in Bluebeam, and I wanted the length of it to be similar to the size of the CRL plastic horseshoe shim. I didn't want it any longer.
Okay.
So I kept playing with the angle, and I think I mocked up 6.75 degrees in my garage. And I was like, oh, 7 degrees. And I just asked my, what do you think of 7 degree solutions? And she says, that sounds cool. So I went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do you see, looking forward in the future of our industry? Obviously, you've been doing this a long time, and through that experience, this was one of your consistent pain points that you developed a solution
Yeah.
for. But we have endless other things like this that are causing headaches for us in our industry. But looking forward now, what do you see in the future for our industry as far as innovation and technology that's opportunity out there?
Oh
that you
man,
could
I
happen?
think the future is so bright. I just think back to 25 years ago when I actually started setting elevations with water levels in downtown San Francisco. And then it was a transit level when we finally bought one. And now everybody's using lasers, right? Job sites used to be like littered with extension cords, wrapped this everywhere. Now everybody's got a battery. The invention of Bluebeam, which is just amazing to me, so AutoCAD-esque, that
Yeah.
our industry, the builders itself and the inventions that are still out there to be figured out is just endless. I have 3 sons. One's already in the trade. One's in college thinking about becoming a project manager in the trades. I have one in the Army who thinks he's going to get out and join the trades as well. So I don't think AI is taking over construction yet, as far as the guys who are actually doing the physical work, and there's so much out there that can be improved on.
Yep.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's almost a lot of ways. I think, you mentioned AI, and a lot of times we have a fear, and it seemed like for the last maybe 10, 20 years that the pendulum had swung very far towards, okay, how are we going to leverage technology and machinery and things to automate out people? And it's almost like the pendulum has swung so far the other way that now a lot of the things that software and AI and stuff have helped us do, if anything, reinforces how much we need people in the building that are doing the work, that are putting it on the walls, that are putting it together, right?
Yeah.
You can CNC parts that still have to be assembled, and they still have to be delivered to the job
That's
site,
right.
still have to be installed and all that stuff. And so if anything, the need is higher than ever for skilled humans in the trade.
Yeah, and I just love what Mike Rowe's doing out there, like getting the word out about the trades really where it's at in the future. Yeah, the trades have a bright future, in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us all about 7 Degree Solutions. For those that are listening now and they're curious to find out more, what is the best way for people to find out about your product and to contact you?
Yeah, just go to www.7degreesolutions.com. There's a request a quote button that you can push. There's 3 videos on there that are pretty cool. One is just like a description of how it works. 2 is myself and my son going head to head on the time of video. And then the 3rd is a 3D video that really explains the shimming process a little bit more in depth. You can request a quote, or you can ask for a sample, or you can go find me on LinkedIn and ask me any questions. I'll make myself available for anybody who wants to talk or chat about it.
Awesome. We will link that in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, you should be able to go down and click on the website link and get there directly. Dave, I'm super excited to see. I know this product's going to be successful, and I love having people like you on that are innovating in our field.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, we're also trying to get a booth set up at Las Vegas AWSF, I think.
FS.
And we're working with them,
Awesome.
so we should be there in July 22nd to the 25th, I believe, if anybody wants to stop by. Thanks so much for having me, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.